Hello and welcome back to ALifeLearned. Today I'm going to be working with the very lovely Anya from her channel AnyaCares4u to talk to you guys about our experience with depression and how we've come to learn to still love ourselves despite experiencing this depression as a contribution to Mental Health Week 2015. And when we're talking about loving yourself, we're talking about getting rid of those negative thoughts that tend to sprout up during depression. So those can be things such as I don't deserve to be loved, or no one wants to be around me, no one cares that I'm going through this. These are all things that I'm quite sure aren't true, but they do tend to creep into your mind when you're in a really low state. And so Anya and I want to share with you how we've gone through depression and how we've come to get past these thoughts and learn to still love and care for ourselves and know that we deserve to be cared for despite experiencing this condition.
An idea.
An escape.
Ideas are bulletproof.
So for anyone who hasn't met her, I'd like to introduce you to the very lovely Anya.
Hi guys, here's Anya from AnyaCares4u. I'm so excited about making this collaboration with Becca. Thank you for working with me, Becca. We've been planning on this for a while and I'm so excited that we are finally able to do this. So hopefully this video is going to help someone.
Now, my personal experience with depression kind of stems back right into my childhood. I did have childhood depression without actually realizing it at the time. It tended to come out a lot in rebellion and anger, and so I wasn't very good at coping with it back then. And then as I moved into my teens, I actually just used avoidance to deal with it, which is not something I would advise because you're not really dealing with it, you're just sort of putting it off. And I did that by burying my head in school. And then once I moved into university, things actually got really intense for me, and for a little while I made the mistake of self-harming to try and deal with my depression and my anxiety and all the things that I was going through. And that's very much something that I would advise not doing, as that's something that only caused more damage rather than actually helping me out of my situation. And the reason that the way I coped with it changed over time is because the different types of depressions that I had changed over time. Escalating up until university, it was gradually becoming more and more of a suicidal type depression, to the point where self-harm was the way that I dealt with not taking my life. And again, that's not something I advise. If you really feel like you're in that much need of help, reach out. There are helplines, there are people who care, and it can get better. I'm definitely a person who can vouch for that because I've been that low, and I can say that I have gotten better since then. Now, once I moved past that suicidal type depression, what I experienced most recently was a depression that was so deep I didn't want to even kill myself because I didn't want to do anything at all. I had absolutely no motivation to exist or to live. I had a hard time getting out of bed. I had a hard time wanting to eat or breathe. But this was a time when I was also in therapy, so I learned a lot better coping mechanisms. And with that, I also learned how to care more about myself. So once I developed these better coping mechanisms, this is where I began to learn to love myself despite experiencing depression in my life. Now, in terms of Anya's experience with depression,
So I used to feel depressed quite often because I just kept blaming myself for everything that went wrong in my life, and even for my parents not loving me, drinking and stuff. Therefore, I just was growing up thinking that nobody loved me, and I just questioned myself, who would love me if even my parents don't? And so I found myself not only not loving myself, but even hating myself. So I found myself in a place where I felt absolutely useless and unaccepted, first of all by myself. And something had to change when I realized that it was not leading me anywhere except depression and suicidal thought. I just could not see a point in living anymore, and I thought that I have to work on myself in order to start loving myself in spite of what I think other people think or feel about me. And I found that the core reason of my anxiety and depression was in me not loving myself and just keeping in my past, just connecting me being unloved child with my current self.
And so once I started developing these better coping mechanisms, when I would get depressed, I would start off by trying to take all stress and pressure off of myself. So if I woke up and I was having a rather depressed day and I happened to have plans to go grocery shopping or to accomplish some things, I would change those plans if possible. I would cancel plans and reduce any pressure pressure that I might have on myself to try and relax and take it easy on the fact that I was basically feeling ill that day in the form of depression. In the same way that you wake up with a cold and then you take it easy, I would try to approach it that way. I would also start reaching out more for help when I was down. When I would really feel like I needed someone there, I wouldn't feel so scared to actually ask someone, can you come please give me a hug? Can you come please spend time with me? I'm lonely, I need help, I need someone to make me feel cared for. And I know that at different stages in life, whether it's esteem issues, social issues, or various other things, that can be really hard to reach out. And it was for me when I was in the other states of depression, especially the suicidal one. But I've really come to learn that no matter what state you are in, the people around you do love you and they do want to help if they know that you're in that condition. So if you can, reaching out is a great way to help yourself get out of that and remember that you are important and you do deserve to be loved. And one of the ways that Anya dealt with her depression is,
God give me strength to accept the things that I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So this kind of quote just started to change my life slowly, because I realized that there were things that I could not change about myself, and I had to accept them and start loving them anyway. And there were things that I could work on and that I could still change. And I gave myself goals, like to stop overreacting and become a nicer person, the person I wanted to be. And for that, I just needed to realize what kind of person I was, what kind of person I was with other people. That was always my goal, to become a better person and to improve it within myself. Those parts that I could not and didn't want to accept in myself, that I wanted to change, and I knew that I could change them. What helped me a lot was just a learning process. I just kept reading about my neurosis, about my mental health issues, but not only that, also some motivation books and some spiritual growth books. Whatever it was that I could find for myself to make me feel better, to educate me at some point why certain things happened a certain way, why did I feel this way, explaining things, but also some other things that actually gave some answers, like how can I change this. And I think that learning process is an essential part of growing kind of self-love, because it's like a flower that you need to pour water on constantly, like every day. Just remind yourself that yes, I actually love myself. I'm just trying to be the person I want to be and change things that I can in order to be proud of myself. It's not like I'm just trying to gain that love, but it just gives me strength inside of myself to be able to love myself even more, because I learned to accept myself and love myself just as I am, but I'm trying to work on myself in order to make this love even more and to be able to share it with others.
And another really big thing that I learned through therapy that was a huge step in learning to love myself and take care of myself despite feeling depression was forgiving myself for the things that I go through while I'm depressed. It's not my fault that I experience depression. It's a chemical imbalance. It happens. It can be environmentally induced, or it can just happen sometimes, and that's not my fault. Just like it's not your fault if you experience depression. And that's something really important to keep in mind, is it isn't your fault. And so anything that happens during that time that you might not appreciate, or someone else might not appreciate, in terms of your inability to spend time with people or your inability to perform activities that you would normally do, you should not hold that against yourself, because that's where the self-hatred, the lack of love, or the just general down feelings that can come after depression can come from, is that guilt or that shame of what you did while you were depressed. But you need to realize that isn't your fault. Of course, you do have some level of control of the actions that you take while you're depressed, but at the same time, you need to accommodate the fact that you are depressed, and that's not something that you can control. So just like you need to accommodate yourself when you have the flu or the cold, you need to accommodate yourself when you're depressed too. And you can't hold it against yourself if you're sniveling all day because you happen to have a cold. You also can't hold it against yourself if you can't go out and perform in social situations or do the things you usually would because you happen to be depressed. Making this big step in forgiveness of myself and of these actions that are unfortunately inevitable when I get in a depressed state has been really life-changing in learning to just accept that this is a condition I deal with, but it's not who I am, and I can still still be a lovable person and still love people and myself despite experiencing it. And in reaching out to other people, you can have them reinforce the positive things about yourself that you tend to forget when you're in a depressed state, which can help you in maintaining that self-value that you really do need in order to not get brought down that much further by your depression. Well, Anya thought,
when you don't love yourself, you just constantly search for this approval of yourself from someone else. But when you have love within yourself, no matter what everyone says, it's just such a valuable thing. It's just an essential thing that you have to work on. And as I said, it's a daily kind of practicing. And now I know myself so much better. I know who I am and I love myself. I accept myself for who I am, and that's so much important. It had a huge impact on my depression. It had a huge impact on my mental health condition, and it's so much essential in every person's life. It just has an unbelievable impact on my life, because when you feel you don't love yourself, nothing works out. You just feel like you're a failure, and those negative thoughts keep you from reaching your goals. They keep you from working properly. They're keeping you from having great relationships with other people. They just keep you miserable. But when you start loving yourself, you're able not to only do better in daily life, but also you are able to do better with other people and share your love with others. It's so much easier to share when you have so much in yourself. When you're empty inside, you cannot do this.
so as I said, in the end, depression is very different for different people. I've been through all kinds of different types of depression, so I really understand that it hits people differently and the way you deal with it is different. But above all, we all need to remember that we are lovable people. You are a lovable person. You deserve to be cared for, and you deserve to be happy despite your depression. And you can be happy despite your depression with the help of possible medication, seeking help from your friends, and remembering that you do deserve care and forgiveness. That will really help you in working through these depressed times and being able to live life as full as you can despite having this mental health condition.
It's possible to fight the depression, to just overcome depression, but for that you need to work hard. You need to do something about it and let yourself know that you are capable of doing this. You are strong enough no matter what happened in your past, and doesn't define you, doesn't define who you are right now, and you can change your life already now. But at the same time, just be able to look at yourself now, because it's not a destination, it's a journey. Your life is a journey, and you have to learn how to enjoy it. You just enjoy all those things the way you are right now, and then when you look back and you see all those results, you just find yourself so inspired, so motivated to move forward, to go beyond this. And having those goals and having those goals achieved, that's what keeps you motivation, and motivation is really essential in dealing with depression and with anxieties and stuff. You can still have people who would love yourself, but do not get yourself dependent on that. Try to build your confidence and love dependent on your own perception and your own knowledge of yourself. And this is really essential in dealing with depression. It's all about your perception. It's all about how you're used to think about people and how you are used to think about situation. Try to change this perception, and at the end of the day, you do what's best for you.
So anyways, as I said, depression is different for everyone. It's a different experience, and thus we all deal with it differently, but something that we should all have in common is to always remember to love ourselves, take care of ourselves, and be sure that we know that we deserve love despite this depressed time that we have. Depression is a really hard condition to deal with, but you aren't alone. There's a lot of people who care, and you can reach out and find ways to cope with it and still be able to care for yourself even though you're experiencing this condition. So I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned a little bit about how you can cope with depression and find different ways to care for yourself despite experiencing it. Anya is a very wonderful person who has a lot of great mental health videos, so I put her channel link below. Do go check it out and see all the different things she has to offer. And also feel free to comment below about your experience with depression and how you've learned to cope with it, as well as how you've learned to come to love yourself or take care of yourself even though you might be experiencing one one of the various different types of depression that people can go through. Every little bit of support that can be provided, even in the comments, still makes a huge difference for anyone going through this condition. So please contribute to the conversation if you can, and join me again next week where I try again to share a little something I've learned in life.